Thank you, Chrissy, and thank you to Vertical Events for organising this conference once again. VRX Silica, obviously. Silica sand is where we're planning to be, and we've got a lot of it, but the world needs a lot of it. It's one of these products you don't particularly think about, but nearly 50 billion tonnes of sand is used each year. Now, 49.5 billion of that goes into concrete, and therein lies one of the problems. So about 500 million tonnes a year goes into other products. Predominantly glass, flat glass and container glass are the dominant use. But because of the concrete industry, they're using up resources at such a rate that some sand that could be beneficiated to the quality you require to make glass is not being accessed. It's disappearing into concrete. And that's becoming a problem, particularly through Asia, where a lot of the stimulus spending is in infrastructure, which means concrete. But it's the main material that modern cities are made of, and that's for concrete and for glass. So we've got 5 silica sand projects in Western Australia. It's a Tier 1 mining region. We've got more than 100 years of life in each of these projects. They might take a while to set up, but they're going to be there for a long time. We've got mining leases granted over 4 of them. Permitting and infrastructure preparations are underway for each of those. It's low-cost mining. This is material that's at the surface, it's loose sand, and really it's all about rehabilitation, and I'll talk about that. We've got a proprietary method for processing, which is a little bit different to what happens elsewhere. But it gives a better final product. Arrowsmith North is our first project that sits about 270 kilometres north of Perth. Low capex, that's one of the great features of sand. It's basically washing and screening. So about 50 to 70 million bucks and about 6 to 8 months to construct a plant. Very strong interest from Asia for our sand products. We've got a number of glass products as well as foundry sand. And hopefully we get up to into production next year, early next year, and that'll be subject to final environmental approvals. It's not a huge margin, it's not iron ore, but there's about a 20 to 30 Aussie dollars per tonne margin. Share price, it's down a little bit. Many of them have drifted off, and I guess the delays that we've got through the environmental approvals process doesn't help while people are sitting there on shares. We've got a few bucks in the bank, but we're not doing a lot of activity at the moment while we're moving through that EPA environmental approvals process. So board and management hold about 12%. Top 20 is about 33%. Our largest shareholder, a German outfit that owns 8%. It's a small team, but I think the capabilities we've got within our team are exactly what you need to try and develop an exploration project into production. So I think we've got the right people in place to get these projects up and running. This is where it gets interesting because silica sand is a difficult commodity to research because it is used in so many different products. More recently, you'll hear about solar panels and a lot of the high-tech semiconductors, LCDs. But it's been used in products that we're sort of aware of, but we don't really think about it. I mean, insulation, fiberglass for insulation. Obviously flat glass that's used in windows, but engineered stone for building cladding. Foundry casting, heads, blocks and manifolds for cars are all cast in sand moulds. Container glass, there's a lot of recycling going on for container glass these days, but there's still a huge demand for raw materials. Swimming pool filtration, water filtration, something you don't see and hear about. Automotive glass, you certainly don't look through your windscreen of your car and think, oh, this is 70% silica. but it is. So it's a product you're surrounded by all the time, but you don't think much about silica. But there is a crisis, and it's mainly because of the concrete production, but also the demand for glass, glass demand's growing about 2 to 5% per year. It's probably slowed up a little bit at the moment, but it is still high growth. And just in Southeast Asia, the market for flat glass and container glass is about 140 million tonnes a year. And it makes a big dent in available supply. If you think sand, forget deserts. Desert sands, they've got an orangey red tinge to it, that's iron. Even for concrete, you need an inert sand, and iron certainly is not inert. Beach sands are predominantly calcium carbonate. So with most of the sand you see, it's not suitable for making glass and or concrete. So it's a product that is generally derived from granite. So it's a finite resource. So yes, it is growing, but give it another 20 billion years, you'll get some more sand. But because of the use, particularly in Asia, it's going to become in demand for other sources. Our market, we're really chasing float glass, container glass, more recently cover glass for solar panels. That's quite a specialist sand and high purity. Need 99.95% and low iron, around 100 ppm. It's not a huge market. That number's a little bit out of date now. The demand for that is about 20 million tonnes a year just in China for solar panel glass. There is production in Australia, but this will become a significant sector within Australia. You heard Andrew before. He's got resources down the southwest. There's limited resources in Australia and limited access. However, we do have some very significant large resources. Collectively, we've got about 1.4 billion tonnes, which will last quite a while. But there are a number of producers already in Australia, and in northern Queensland, Cape Flattery, they're the single largest exporter of silica sand in the world. And it's been operating for 50 years. It's owned by Mitsubishi. And mainly it's the largest exporter in the world because every other country's banned exports of silica sand. All the Asian countries have banned exports of silica sand because they're worried about their own domestic supply. So there is limited, there's some production from Malaysia that mainly is exported to China. There's a small amount that's mined from Indonesia, but most of the mining you see of silica sand in Asia is all for domestic use. So we have these 5 projects. They're very long life. More important, each of these projects was selected because they've got an adjacent railway line. These are bulk commodities and they've got connections through to ports. As it happens, we've got gas pipelines that run right through the middle of a couple of our projects. So we'll be looking at probably gas-fired power. Arrowsmith North, we've got 200 million tonnes in reserves. We're aiming to put in a plant there for 2 million tonnes a year, so we've got 100 years reserve. Mushay's got a 200 million tonne resource, but it's also higher grade. So the production from Arrowsmith North, we're looking at flat glass, container glass, but Mushay is high grade, can be processed up to nearly 4 nines and 100 ppm iron. That'll go into the solar panel market. They're very large resources. They're probably the most advanced non-private silica sand projects in Australia. And when I say advanced, the greatest advancement is in our environmental approvals and our mining proposals. They're all underway at the moment. Environmental approvals in Australia is about a 5-step process. We're at number 5 for Arrowsmith North, so that's getting close. So we expect to get that up and running early next year. We updated a BFS, latest capital estimates, sort of tendered prices for November to February. It gives us an NPV at 10% of 167 million with 25 years of production. We've actually got 100 years of production there. We've got 4 products, 3 are for the foundry industry and 1 for the glass-making industry. We've got here, we've got VDT trials. I'll explain that. It's a process, it's an environmental consideration, particularly for rehabilitation. And it's quite simple, really. We're taking a sod of topsoil out just in front of where we're going mining and put it back behind us where we have been mining. And it's shown to be easily the best rehabilitation outcome you can get. So we intend to, in fact, the whole mining operation is built around this process for rehabilitation. We've actually built the bucket. It's a modified bucket, goes on the front of a front-end loader. And it's really particularly useful on our first project, Arrowsmith North. This vegetation's all about waist high. Root system's only 200-300 mil, and we'll take a 400 mil sod of material. So we get all the root structures, all the microbes, everything you need there for this vegetation to rehabilitate. That's actually the top of a sand dune. It's difficult to see, but we do knock off the top of a sand dune, but this dune's about 4 kilometres wide and about 12 kilometres long. Environmental approvals in Australia are taking longer and longer every year. They do take a long while, but once you do get them, you've got them pretty well forever. It's fairly difficult to lose your approvals. So we're well down the process for Arrowsmith North. The latest document we lodged was October last year, which was a response to submissions, and they were submissions that were submitted by the public in July, August last year. We've responded to those. The next step is to publish the response to submissions and finalise the assessment with a recommendation to the Minister. So we're right at the pointy end of finally getting those approvals. Maluish, once again, all the work we've done at Arrowsmith North for approvals, mining and environmental, we've repeated here at Maluish. So this project is also ready to go as far as the approvals process goes. It's only 50 kilometres north of Perth. It's very high grade, highly sought after sand. We've got inquiries weekly for this particular type of sand, and this we'll set it up for export out of Kwinana. Different vegetation, however, the recalcitrant species here are the low grasses and sedges that you can see, so the VDT will work here. Simple process. The key to this actually is attritioning, which is an agitated slurry which polishes each of the grains. The rest of the process is get rid of the stuff you actually polish off the grains. All the engineering is completed. This plant is ready to start construction. There's no dust involved. It's a wet process. The whole process, there's no toxic chemicals involved in it, and it's quite a simple process. We do take our ESG responsibilities very carefully. We consider them quite carefully, but we also think that the best way to get these sort of targets is at the planning stage. So a lot of work's gone into trying to meet these targets. We'll publish in the Critical Minerals Prospectus, which gets us a lot of attention whenever Austrade are doing roadshows. We have a Industry Attraction Fund grant for $2 million to produce a silica flour. We've been granted a thermal energy permit just near Arrowsmith, and we've farmed that out, and we're doing some trials of VDT on a couple of our projects. So we think this is the place to be, and silica sand will become a significant sector within the Australian mining industry, mainly because of demand out of Asia. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, we've got a booth out there. Happy to answer them.
Thank you. Well done.